This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. 2 people have been arrested and charged in what RCMP are calling an investigation into a suspected labor trafficking case. Police say 4 victims were recruited to work at a Manitoba hotel, then faced threats, long hours, and low wages. The CBC's Alana Cole brings us the story.
Manitoba RCMP say a 5-month investigation revealed a case of labor trafficking in the RM of Portage La Prairie. RCMP say the investigation started when officers were called about a disturbance at a hotel. Sergeant Kathy Farrell says at that point 2 women came forward. Then 2 other victims, a man and a woman, were identified.
Officers discovered the victims were recruited from another country and promised legal work, fair wages and affordable living in Manitoba through what is known as a Labour Market Impact Assessment, also known as an LMIA. However, the victims were working 15-hour days and being paid well under minimum wage requirements.
Farrell says threats of deportation and intimidation were used so that the victims would keep working at the hotel. And one of the victims' identification documents were withheld. RCMP say 2 hotel owners, 62-year-old Jai Inder Sandhu and 48-year-old Satbir Sandhu, have been charged with a number of offenses, including human trafficking. At this news conference, RCMP urged anyone who needs help or knows someone who does to contact police or other community organizations.
As Manitobans, we all have a role to play to stop sex and labor trafficking. If you see something, say something. And if you're wrong, it's okay, but if you're right, you could save someone's life.
As for the victims, RCMP say they are all from India, but didn't provide ages. They also say the recruiting happened through word of mouth, in one case through a family member, and there were also online ads. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And CBC News has confirmed that Jai Inder Sandhu is an owner of the Howard Johnson Hotel in Portage La Prairie. Well, it has been 1 year since a Winnipeg home exploded, leaving a giant hole in the neighborhood and surrounding homes badly damaged. This was the aftermath of the explosion on Camrose Bay on June 26th of 2024. It took 19 emergency units, including fire and rescue, to secure the area. Now, that explosion was so massive, debris was found blocks away. The houses nearby were significantly damaged as well, leaving families living in them displaced. But now, exactly a year later, residents are still without homes and left seeking answers. They say a lack of help from the city and red tape delayed the start of construction on their homes until 2 months ago.
A year today, 1 whole year already. I've seen houses that got destroyed and they're cleaned up and done like in 3 months. I don't understand what's going on.
We're sort of powering through, and hopefully they'll get us in our home soon, but the city sure put a damper on everything also. They held on to permits. They didn't, there should be something in place for people who are in this position.
The city says the investigation into the cause of the explosion is still ongoing. The neighbors whose homes were destroyed hope to move back in by September. Manitoba is lifting provincial travel and burn bans as recent rains continue to dampen wildfires. Restrictions will be relaxed at 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday. Backcountry travel within active fire boundaries is still prohibited without a permit. However, even as some provincial restrictions ease, municipalities may have their own fire bans still in place. Across the province, there are 18 wildfires burning. 9 of those are out of control. Tatasqueyac Cree Nation, Matthias Colombe Cree Nation, Wallace Lake, and parts of Nopaming Provincial Park are still under evacuation orders. 6,500 Manitobans remain out of their homes. Recent data from the United Nations says at least 1.4 million Afghan girls have been banned from accessing secondary education. Here in Winnipeg, a 13-year-old is trying to fight against that. She's using art to spread awareness and advocate for women and girls still in the country. The CBC's Felicia Adam has more.
With paint and a brush in hand, This is just one of many canvases 13-year-old Satayesh Kashi uses to tell a story. Kashi and her family came to Winnipeg in 2021, fleeing their home in Kabul after the Taliban seized control of Afghanistan. After arriving in Canada, Kashi says she felt safe, but she also felt guilt.
Whenever I look at my school, I remember my friends because they don't even have the chance to look at a school and even step inside that school.
Art became an outlet for Kashi, a way to express herself, a safe space. But soon she realized her paintings could be used for advocacy.
I want to break the silence because so many of these people don't know their stories. They don't know what's going on.
Her paintings show the point of view of Afghan women and girls inspired by stories she hears from her friends back home.
So this painting resembles an eye of a girl who's always crying because she knows that her future is all on fire, just like you see over here. It's like a fire that never goes extinct. And the redness of her eyes, it's like a message of endurance, of waiting for a world to act.
Since taking power, the Taliban have barred women from most areas of public life and stopped girls from going to school after grade 6.
They just living without anything.
Kashi's mother says she's proud of her daughter. CBC is not identifying her because she says if recognized, it could put her family back home in danger. She hopes to see things change in Afghanistan.
Half of the society in my home country is women. And if we want to grow the society, if we want to have a very, very good plan for the one country, without woman and girl, we cannot.
As the school year ends, Kashi longs to go back home to the Afghanistan she remembers, where women and girls are able to learn and dream of more. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A teenage cyclist was sent to hospital after being hit by a vehicle in South Osborne. Winnipeg police say it happened just after 8 o'clock this morning at Osborne and Morley. Police say the driver of the vehicle has been arrested on suspicion of impaired driving. The victim is in stable condition. Winnipeg could test out protected bike lanes on Wellington Crescent next year. This comes after cyclist Rob Jenner was hit and killed by a speeding driver on Wellington last year. Now, a new city report recommends a bike lane pilot project from Academy Road to Stradbrook Avenue. The speed limit would be lowered to 40 kilometers per hour. Cycling advocates have been calling on the city to install a bike lane this year and lower the speed limit to 30 kilometers per hour. Public Works Chair Janice Luke says the city needed to consult with residents in the area first.
I know that people are not going to be happy about this, but I also know that if we're going to do this and we're going to put $400K, maybe $500K, we'll see how much it costs into this, that we want to do it as best as we can possibly do it for that price.
The plan calls for one-way painted lanes on either side of the road with plastic bollards and concrete curbs. Well, Manitobans in northern and rural communities can expect reduced hours and periodic closures in emergency rooms this summer. Doctors Manitoba says 24 emergency rooms will see such disruptions in the coming months, while 28 are expected to be fully closed. 20 ERs, however, should be open around the clock. Residents are being urged to check out the status of their local emergency room ahead of time.
My plea, for folks to use the resources that are available to them. If it's not an emergency, you can call HealthLinks and they would have the most updated schedules. If it is an emergency, just call 911. The ambulances will always know what the closest facility is.
Doctors Manitoba says it launched a webpage that provides information on operating hours and the status of emergency room operations. All right, here's a look at around Sturgeon Creek as we experience another pleasant day across much of southern Manitoba. Bit of rain in parts of the north. Let's get a first check on our forecast now with meteorologist Colette Kennedy.
Thanks, Riley. Hey, not a bad day across most of the province, and in most cases a little bit warmer than yesterday. Temperatures back to seasonal or even a tiny bit above. In the case of Winnipeg, some cooler numbers and not cool, but cooler towards the southwest, where we're closer to that frontal boundary, and also to the northwest. Welcome, because of some wet weather occurring there. And it says daytime highs, but okay, we'll call it afternoon temperatures, because in some cases we still capture another degree or two. Overnight tonight, clear skies, 13. Tomorrow morning, warming up pretty quickly, mostly sunny and 16 degrees. Into the afternoon, a few clouds may develop, especially towards the late afternoon. High of 26, maybe 27, in fact. And as we get towards the evening, we get into a chance for some isolated to scattered showers and thunderstorms, but the details on that coming up.
All right, thank you, Colette. See you soon. Tensions boiled over at a public open house last night in Carberry over plans to redesign a deadly intersection, the same spot where 17 seniors were killed in a bus crash just over 2 years ago. Residents from Carberry and surrounding communities packed the meeting, angry over a recommendation to install a restricted crossing U-turn or an R-cut at the junction of Highways 1 and 5. The CBC's Chelsea Kemp brings us the story.
And what you're holding in your hand there is the voices of over 2,100 people who do not agree with you, that live here and use it every day and know just how stupid this idea is. So listen to us now.
What was meant to be an information session turned into a heated showdown over plans for the junction of Highways 1 and 5 near Carberry. Many say the proposed restricted crossing U-turn, known as an R-cut, would make it more dangerous. The design would force drivers going straight or turning left from Highway 5 to first turn right, then cross 3 lanes to make a U-turn. Drivers turning left from Highway 1 would still be able to turn at the intersection.
We all consider it more dangerous crossing all those lanes of traffic twice.
It's going to be an extremely unsafe option if they do go through at the R-cut. They're putting rural lives at risk.
Many residents say an overpass would be the safest solution, because they wouldn't have to cross multiple lanes of traffic twice. Jordan Dixon lives just down the road from the intersection, where a 2023 bus crash killed 17 people. She says the plan fails to account for large machinery and rural needs.
It was really clear here tonight that the community has come together on this, and we'll keep fighting until the right method has been done.
More than 100 people came out to voice their opposition to the R-cut. Dustin Boy with Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure says the design is a preferred recommendation. The final decision lies with the government. He's encouraging the community to keep an open mind.
Uncertainty, discomfort to the local community, and folks do get used to it once they've traveled it once or twice. It still remains a safe alternative for us to consider here, and that's what we're here to propose to the community and to the government.
Deborah Steen hopes a petition with more than 2,100 signatures will change things.
Been dismissed since day one, and I don't think they could dismiss us today.
Boy says after hearing from the community, they'll be gathering traffic counts this fall during the busy harvest season. Manitoba's transportation minister says a final decision has not been made for the future of the intersection. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Carberry.
All right, well, we're inching a little bit closer to the weekend, and of course a big weekend with lots happening in our province. Doffin's Country Fest, one of those things, and let's bring back meteorologist Colette Kennedy. And it wouldn't be a Country Fest weekend with a bit of instability.
Thanks, Riley. After a beautiful day today, tomorrow the temperature's similar, or in most cases we'll find them even a touch warmer, and some humidity, but not a lot. So just add, say, 2 or 3 to your high temperature, and that gives you what the humidex value, or that feels like temperature, is going to be like. The jet's still much stronger, well off to the east of us, going around that ridge of high pressure that's still bringing heat, although it's finally going to be pushing in some relief behind it. But we get what we sometimes sometimes call these ridge riders, where you get some showery or thunderstorm activity going around that ridge of high pressure. That's some of the activity you're seeing here to the south. And then the next thing we need to be looking at is this system, or this frontal boundary, that's kind of coming in here from the west. It's a slow mover, so sort of settling across Saskatchewan and taking its time to push eastward. And then you see another low to the north, and this is the one along that warm front. And as this approaches where we're getting some of that rain, nice to see. Obviously, we don't want the thunderstorm activity, we don't want the lightning strikes, but still getting some soaking rain, although it's somewhat scattered or isolated there. This will be the player to watch, though, as we move through time into tomorrow afternoon. Some showers and thunderstorms developing along that towards Westman. And then as we go through the day, as we push towards the city, that's where tomorrow night and then overnight and into early Saturday, we have the risk of getting into some scattered or even isolated thunderstorms there. And some of those could have some heavier downpours associated with them and some stronger or gustier winds. So again, that's mostly later in the day tomorrow. So much of the day is looking good with sunny skies. Only later towards the late afternoon do we get some of those clouds kind of building in there, and then that chance of those thunderstorms. 26 to 27 for the high, but feeling like 29 or so. And then into Saturday, again, some scattered thunderstorm possibilities here. 28 for the high. Sunday, it looks good. Just a slim chance for an isolated shower, 26. You notice what's going on with those temperatures, right? Seasonal to a little bit above. And yes, of course, that's Canada Day. And we're looking at mostly sunny skies there and a pretty comfortable high of 28. A little bit sticky, but not too bad. And as long as the winds aren't too strong, things looking good for fireworks as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Colette. Well, after being closed for more than 4 decades, Winnipeg's most iconic intersection will reopen to pedestrians on Friday. Work to remove the cement barricades at Portage and Main began last year, and the first official crossings will happen after an event at 10:30 tomorrow morning. We thought we'd take a look back at what it looked like when the intersection first closed and the underground walkway had just opened. Here is a story from The National that aired on February 23rd of 1979.
Los Angeles has Hollywood and Vine, New York has Times Square, and Winnipeg has Portage and Main. At least the motorists in Winnipeg have Portage and Main, because soon the pedestrians won't. Thanks to urban development, the people who walk through Winnipeg are about to lose one of life's great privileges, crossing the street at Portage and Main and surviving the weather.
Corner of Portage and Main, coldest spot in Winnipeg.
More than that, just about everybody says the intersection of Portage Avenue and Main Street is the windiest and coldest in Canada. That may not be true. Surely there's a colder place in the Arctic somewhere, but it's close enough to the truth to make this one of the most famous crossroads in the country. The intersection was actually established in 1863. You will notice many people have learned the Portage and Main technique. The quicker you can get across, the less chance you will freeze to death before you reach the other side. Today, an historic event. The city opened a $7 million underground walkway, which includes some stores, and to the great relief of Winnipeg pedestrians, a heating system. Eventually, many downtown buildings will be connected by a series of underground concourses and above-ground skywalks. Shortly after the official opening, fighting the bitter wind above ground seemed to be a hard habit to break for many people.
How come you're going to walk across the street instead of using the underground walkway?
Because I don't know how to get to it just yet.
Right.
And this is faster. Well, I didn't know where the entrance was.
Oh, it's just over there.
Okay, I'll take a chance and go through it.
You think it's a good idea, is it?
Oh, yeah, so if I could find it, it's better than walking in the cold.
But it's got to work good, because it's just freezing out here. Got to run, got to get inside.
I didn't know it was open.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's right behind you there.
Oh, it's kind of far. I think I'll just run across.
Later, there will be no choice for Winnipeggers. The crosswalks will be abolished, and pedestrians who want to get to the other side will have to go underground. After 116 years, the city has finally decided that Portage and Main is fine for cars, but it's no fit place for human beings. Terry Maddie, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And that's the news for Friday, February 23rd. For The National, I'm Valerie Alea. Good night.
South of the border tonight, the Pentagon is sharing new details about how the U.S. strike on Iran's nuclear program unfolded. The Trump administration continued to aggressively defend last Saturday's attacks, doubling down on how destructive the attacks were to the Iranian nuclear facilities. Sam Sampson has more from Washington.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Top United States military officials at the Pentagon gave even more detail about strikes on Iranian nuclear sites Thursday, showing test videos of the bombs that were eventually fired into exhaust shafts and, according to the U.S., destroyed the underground facilities.
Unlike a normal surface bomb, you won't see an impact crater because they're designed to deeply bury and then function. I know there's been a lot of questions about that. All 6 weapons at each vent at Fordo went exactly where they were intended to go.
This briefing, in part, was to prove media outlets wrong, the ones that reported on a preliminary intelligence document which suggested the impacts to the nuclear sites were limited.
There was a great deal of irresponsible reporting based on leaks, preliminary information in low confidence. Again, when someone leaks something, they do it with an agenda.
The Trump administration says it will investigate the leak, though some are already making their own guesses.
It's dangerous and ridiculous that happened, but we're going to solve that problem, and we'll keep the coordination.
Do you think the leak came from Congress, sir?
That's my suspicion.
As Washington plays whodunit, world leaders continue to weigh in on the damage done at those Iranian nuclear sites. Both Israel and Iran have claimed victory and give varying degrees of how badly the sites were hit.
Il a subi d'énormes dégâts.
The leader of the UN's nuclear watchdog in a French interview Thursday said centrifuges at the Fordo plant are no longer operational and that there is considerable damage.
The only other time the United Nations, Israel, Iran, and the United States has agreed on something is that the sky is blue, but they all agree that Iran's nuclear facilities were completely demolished.
Though President Trump said Wednesday he plans on meeting with Iran next week, his press secretary said there's nothing on the books, only that the two countries are on a diplomatic path. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Washington.
Some of the world's top celebrities have begun to arrive in Venice. They're there to kick off the 3-day wedding extravaganza for Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and his fiancée Lauren Sanchez. But not everyone in the country is in a celebratory mood. The CBC's Megan Williams has more on the protests threatening to crash the wedding.
For weeks, protesters have slammed the event as a symbol of everything that's wrong with Venice today, an historic city turning into a playground for millionaires and billionaires. One activist in St. Mark's Square unfurled a banner reading, "The 1% ruins the world." Locals accuse the city of selling out, of neglecting housing, public services and local businesses, while catering to mass tourism and to tycoons.
I like the protest. I am glad that he's doing it and that everyone is being so cooperative about it.
I think it's good, yeah. I think we should talk about these things, to be conscious about something that happens in the world, not just be silent.
Activists say that all of these things are connected: a billionaire wedding, Trump private jets, governments increasingly out of touch with their people. They say they will shut down the canals and close off bridges on Saturday, which is the expected day of the wedding. In response, wedding organizers have moved the actual venue of the wedding to the Arsenale. It was supposed to be in the city center. Now it's going to be in this historic shipyard, beautiful space, easy to protect from protesters. Of course, none of this has stopped celebrities pouring in. There's been Oprah, the Kardashians, politicians like former White House advisor Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner. They're all coming in on private jets, which of course has not diminished the anger towards these people. Critics are calling this wedding one more cash grab for the city that is selling its soul to tourism and to billionaires. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
In Greece, a large wildfire has forced residents to flee a seaside area south of Athens. Authorities ordered the evacuation of several coastal communities under threat. Helicopters and planes are dropping water bombs over the area. At least 100 firefighters have been deployed to fight the flames. Local authorities say that several houses are believed to have been damaged by the blaze. Strong winds are fanning the fire, sending plumes of smoke across the sky. It's still unclear how many people have fled. The fire comes as temperatures soar to nearly 40 degrees in the country's first heat wave of summer. 3 people are dead and at least a dozen feared missing in northern India. This after being swept away by flash flooding. Torrential rains triggered flash floods in this mountainous region. Officials say water levels at a local reservoir rose suddenly on Wednesday and swept away at least 15 workers resting near a hydroelectric project site. The area is close to a popular tourist destination and the home of Tibetan spiritual leader Dalai Lama. Authorities had to evacuate dozens of stranded tourists to safety. In this country, a protest rally took place in Toronto against a new education bill from the Ontario government. It would require some school boards to put police officers in their schools. Some police services are reacting positively, but critics say it could threaten the education of some students. Idil Musa reports.
We keep us safe! We keep us safe!
The rain couldn't keep these demonstrators away. They're protesting proposed legislation that could force some school boards to put police officers in public schools.
We will fight! We will fight! We will win! We will win!
Opponents of the legislation say generations of young Black and racialized students have been harmed by school resource officer programs, or SROs.
The Education Act is very clear about when cops have to be in schools, right? When there's a lockdown, when there are any threats in the community or at the school. Cops legally have to be called as per the Education Act. What we are saying no to is any additional presence of cops in our hallways with guns. Students don't need guns. Students need support.
But having police inside schools promotes safety and creates the opportunity to foster important connections, says the Provincial Police Association.
The goal of the programs is to bridge the gap between police and youth and build positive relationships.
This academic says there's no evidence police in schools reduce violence, and their presence could have a negative effect.
What we do know is that in a variety of studies, they have shown that, especially in the United States, putting SROs in schools increases punitive forms of discipline, where principals and teachers will turn to the police officer in their school to help them with things that they might not have turned to them for in the past.
Ontario's premier says the message he's received from parents has been overwhelmingly positive.
We aren't going in there and putting a heavy arm with the police, and no, they're part of the community. So I think it's fantastic that we're putting community officers within the schools.
The bill is expected to go to a final vote in the fall. The Ford government's majority means it will likely pass. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
A new COVID-19 variant is spreading this summer. Hospitalizations are high, and doctors say getting the shot is still a smart move for protection against serious illness. Christine Birak looks at the findings.
Still wondering if the COVID shot is worth it? It may not shield you from infection, but it could keep you out of hospital.
This study reinforces that updated COVID-19 vaccines reduce severe disease. That's really important.
A newly published study finds the latest COVID-19 vaccines offered significant protection for about 2 months. Those who got the shot lowered their risk of becoming critically ill by nearly 70% and cut their chances of hospitalization and emergency department visits roughly in half. Protection did wane over time, dropping to about 50% for critical illness, but remained effective up to a year.
If you sold me something that said, you have a 50% chance of not having something bad, I would take that in a heartbeat.
It doesn't happen to you until it happens to you, and at that stage, it's too late.
The latest Canadian data show since August of last year, nearly 32,000 Canadians have been hospitalized with COVID-19 and over 2,000 deaths were reported, mostly in people over 65. That's more than triple the number of flu deaths.
It's going to continue to evolve the way that flu does and, try and sort of outwit and outrun our immune system.
A new variant has been surging in China, India, and the U.S. Nicknamed Nimbus, symptoms can include a severe sore throat. The World Health Organization is tracking it. So far, the severity appears similar to other variants. Family doctors say they're seeing plenty of patients sick with viral illnesses.
A lot of the COVID questions I'm getting around this time of year are actually around vaccines.
Canada's Vaccine Advisory Panel says anyone over 6 months can get a COVID-19 vaccine. It recommends those at higher risk, especially people over 65, should get a shot this fall. It could be the difference between a tough week at home and a trip to the ER. Christine Burak, CBC News, Toronto.
A key piece of legislation for the federal government has vaulted a final crucial hurdle. Bill C-5, that is, has passed the Senate. The legislation is meant to speed the passage of so-called nation-building projects. It was a major campaign issue for Prime Minister Mark Carney, and he promised it would be passed swiftly. C-5 will give Cabinet the ability to pick projects to speed through the regulatory process. Some senators had objected to its lack of consultation with Indigenous people. They proposed 2 amendments, but ultimately passed the bill. It has now also received royal assent. Graduation season wraps up this week in Manitoba. Today, around 205 students crossed the stage and received their diplomas from Grant Park High School. Nerves, excitement, hopes, and dreams filled the room. The CBC's Zabina Ahmed was there.
Walking across the hall wearing their blue robes and caps, family and friends clapping and cheering. This was a moment of joy for the 205 graduates of Grant Park High School. Students shared what their goals and aspirations are.
I want to change lives. I want to be inspiring. I want to inspire other people, inspire the youth. I want to, build a legacy that people can look back on.
I'm going to go to the CFL. Yeah. I'm going to the CFL. Yeah.
Are you allowed to do football?
Yeah, I'm playing at U of M next year.
I want to be a lawyer and just make a lot of money.
Okay, and why do you want to be a lawyer?
I don't know, I want to help people get out of jail and stuff like that.
Future goals, definitely getting into teaching and pursuing my education career.
Hudson graduates this morning with the U of W Special Entrance Scholarship.
The class of 2025 also received a series of awards and scholarships to students who excelled in certain fields.
The Biology AP 42S Subject Awards.
Many of the graduates say they felt a wave of excitement, nervousness, and hope for the future.
Graduation just feels really good, just to be able to finally move on, take another step, and, just be able to kind of express yourself and move on and see what the future holds.
I'm excited for the future, a little bit scared, but I think it'll work out.
Our generation, they are more creative. They are more funny, I guess. Youngster with a new idea, they came. So there's a lot of challenges, but it's a new chance for us to express ourselves.
3, 2, 1.
Tossing their caps into the air, these students are stepping into a new future filled with dreams and aspirations. Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Graduation, one sign of summer in this province. And let's bring back Colette now. And with some of the warm temperatures we've seen as we inch closer to the weekend, I am looking forward to spending some of that on my balcony.
Thanks, Riley. Yeah, when we have days like this, you want to enjoy it, and nice to have these long days. Obviously, we're coming off the summer solstice, and so they start to shrink again, but we've only lost, about a minute or so there. So still plenty of time to enjoy 16 hours and almost 20 minutes still. All right, a few things going on. I talked about some of these ridge riders, some of the showers and thunderstorms going around that area of high pressure. We've got this warm front that's bringing some moisture to the north. Nice to see, as long as we don't see any of these. The lightning strikes in there. And then this is our occluded front, which is also going to bring some wet weather by tomorrow afternoon, pushing back in with showers or some scattered thunderstorms into Westman. And then eventually by tomorrow evening and overnight, that comes over towards the city. So something to be watching for there. Just looking at your temperatures and the conditions tonight, closer to that boundary, that's where we have the chance for some showers, but otherwise it's dry. Tonight, 15 or so. We may dip down to 13 by the time we get to our low. Speaking of 13, Lynn Lake with some showers. Flin, Flon with some showers in here too. So everything looking pretty good, even towards Thompson. In fact, it's all spreading eastward. So getting some of this, you could see it's not everywhere. It's not a soaking rain everywhere, but where it fills in, that's really welcome to get some of this rainfall. We'll look at the amounts, some warm temperatures in here too. Thompson up to 26, and we'll see readings like that as we push through the day too in southern parts of the province, and even a little warmer than today. Portage 29, Winnipeg 26. We may get to that 27, feeling like 29 or feeling like 30. So there's just a little bit of humidity, and then here comes that moisture trying to make its way in. And looking at what the rainfall totals will be like, we'll put this into two parcels, getting close to 30 millimeters by the time we get to midday Saturday for Flin Flon. We'll put a few more millimeters on the board there. Potentially, we'll take anything we can get right through that region. And you know, it's 5 to 20 millimeters elsewhere. Because they're isolated or scattered storms, it's kind of hard to predict exactly where you get the moisture. This is Matilda. Matilda's 2 years old, courtesy of Lynn and Gary. Love the bow. I mean, she looks so good in blue. A Westie, I think? Yes, just a real beauty. Thanks for sending that in. And in terms of your dog walking forecast, green paws a go. Things looking good. A few more clouds late in the day, and the pavement may begin to get just a little bit warmer too, Riley.
Thanks, Colette. Well, picking up and returning to normal life after a wildfire is never easy. It's something Flin Flon residents are coming to grips with after starting to return yesterday. Dawn Lady initially fled, but then ultimately returned to help feed firefighters. She spoke with the CBC's Margot Watt this morning.
I remember when you did have to leave, when you were part of that evacuation. I spoke with you that afternoon.
Yes.
And I remember you describing this surreal scene of the helicopters and the smoke and this long convoy of traffic. So what was that like for you going back, knowing what was happening?
It was definitely a feeling of uncertainty. When I arrived back into town, you know, I felt like I was actually in a movie that I should have been playing at my drive-in theater. The only vehicles you saw in town were emergency vehicles, so literally there was lights everywhere. I almost felt like I was the sole survivor of an apocalypse. There was nobody around. It was only us and our work crew, and then the frontline workers. So it was definitely an eerie experience. It was definitely scary at times. The first couple of nights I was back, the helicopters were such a sound over my house that it was even uncomforting thinking that I should be going to sleep. Yeah. It was questionable if somebody was still going to be coming knocking on my door saying, you know, get out. So it was definitely a feeling of uncertainty, but it was something that we needed to do to be there to help.
And when you were helping, when you were feeding those firefighters and just helping out wherever you could, what was that like for you, being able to just give back a little something?
It was completely rewarding. These firemen worked so hard around the clock. We were all exhausted together trying to pull off one mission, and that was saving our communities. And in order for the frontline workers to do that, they needed to be fueled. So that was our part of the job, was having them fed 3 times a day, and it was truly rewarding.
Now, I know that you know what you're doing in the kitchen, obviously, so with your businesses, but what was involved logistically in making that happen?
Well, it was right from the beginning of procuring products from fire commissioners and getting trucks involved. We thankfully still had a fully stocked restaurant, so some of our products was able to help in the initial few days. But it was literally waking up at 3:30 in the morning to be in the kitchen at 4:30. We were working with a very small skeleton crew, so to have 240 mouths to feed 3 times a day, it was 16 to 18-hour days off the start as well, until we were able to secure some of our own staff that were able to come back.
So how much support did you have during this time from government?
None. None. From beginning to end, I feel like it was a very broken system. It was very complicated being our border town, dealing with 2 different provinces, 2 different municipalities with different recommendations from the government. Red Cross, you know, they never once called us to say like, hey, do you need a hand with this? Can we send in anybody? It was literally us problem solving every step of the way.
Have there been lessons learned, do you think?
Definitely. I think it's only in times of these disastrous situations that hard lessons are learned. There's been a lot of awareness brought to a lot of broken situations here that have happened. And I really hope that it doesn't happen again or happen to any other communities. We're such a big community amongst ourselves. We operate as one, even being a border town in 2 different provinces. We've got 4 communities technically that are governed all in their own. So it really becomes messy in a situation like this. And it definitely has shined light on a lot of things that could have been done differently. And we just hope that we could all move together as one throughout the rest of this now.
So you've been back in your home for a few days now. What's that been like?
I've actually been here since June 5th. So
Okay.
It's nice to see the progression of all the residents coming back. You know, I went to the grocery store yesterday and there was lots of hugs and lots of tears and just it's nice to see people back within the community. There's still a little bit of a long road ahead with different things that still need to be done, but it's definitely comforting knowing that all the residents are able to come back now.
How long do you think it will take for life to get completely back to normal, if there is such a thing anymore?
It's quite a big spectrum, actually. You know, it's the simplest thing is having the Flin Hospital fully functional to get the medical residents back. There's graduations that need to take part. There's 3 high schools that all postpone their graduations, my son being one of them. There's employers still have yet to operate at full capacity because their employees, they're still not all back.
As we showed you earlier, the iconic intersection of Portage and Main will open up to pedestrians Friday for the first time in over 40 years. Our friends at Information Radio will be broadcasting live Friday morning from the intersection. They will have more on what folks are saying about the opening and chatting with some as they get ready to cross the street. That begins at 6 a.m. tomorrow on CBC Radio 1 or on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. All right, I promise we'll get to Colette and the 7-day in just a moment, but first something completely different. It might not be a T-Rex, but this little fellow is a big Jurassic find. You're looking at a brand new dinosaur species now on display at the Natural History Museum in London. It's called the Enigmachosaur, meaning mysterious runner. It's about the size of a Labrador retriever. Scientists say the herbivore roamed the western United States roughly 150 million years ago.
Thanks, Riley. Yeah, time to check out not only the 5-day forecast, which now does include Canada Day, but we'll push on to the 7-day as well. And I think the trend you're going to see here are those temperatures a few degrees above seasonal or close to seasonal. Keep in mind some evening or overnight thunderstorms possible tomorrow and a risk in the afternoon for Saturday. Canada Day looking pretty good with a slight chance of showers. Okay, come on. It looks like it'll be a dry one for now. It's still a few days out, so we got to watch that carefully. And then yeah, temperatures building towards 30 degrees by the time we hit next Thursday.
Thanks, Colette. Well, most of us can relate to that feeling of rushing to the airport and barely making it. Unless you're me, then you get there hours early just to make sure the gate exists and doesn't somehow dissolve before your flight. But even our four-legged friends get a bit of airport anxiety. Here's your Daily Lift. Okay, so you're looking at some video from Japan. This young bear was clearly not at the airport to catch a flight. If anything, the wild visitor caused an airport in Japan to shut down and 10 flights had to be canceled. Traps have been set up around the airport grounds to catch it. There were reports of bear sightings since Wednesday, but airport officials believe it may all be the same animal. Or maybe it was trying to catch a flight and was trying to find its gate, like I do, because I kind of look like that when I'm at the airport. That's our show for this Thursday. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you tomorrow to wrap up the week. Have a wonderful evening.